Okay, so in 8.2, we're going to use the Pythagorean theorem to calculate some missing sides in right triangles. Now, the first one says, is each set of numbers a Pythagorean triple? Well, what is a Pythagorean triple? They are three numbers that satisfy the Pythagorean theorem, where you put the biggest number in where the hypotenuse would be. So here you want to look for the biggest number. And from there, you want to check to see if it's squared. So c squared, remember, equals a squared plus b squared. So I kind of like to split and do a little chart. So my c would be 1.3. So I'm going to square that. And then 1.2 squared plus 0.5 squared. So oops, that's not what I wanted to do. My calculator. 1.3 squared is 1.69. Then 1.2 squared plus 0.5 squared is 1.69. So yes, those three numbers are a Pythagorean triple. And over here, if I do c squared, a squared plus b squared, then I would look for my biggest side here would be 18.2. It's quite large, so I have a feeling it's not going to work. But you can check. So 18.2 squared is 331.24. And then the other is 3.1 squared plus 2.3 squared, 14.9. Okay, definitely not even close. So that is not a Pythagorean triple. Okay, so let's do some calculating here. So it says, how far must the third base player throw the ball to get the runner out at second base? So here's the third base player, and they have to throw to second base as the runner's running there, right? So we want to calculate this distance. So take a look. It's a square, the diamonds. The ball diamond. So this is a 90 degrees. So we've got a right triangle. We know this is 10 meters and this is 27. Okay, and so we want the hypotenuse. So which is the unknown length? So it's the hypotenuse. Then it says use the Pythagorean theorem to calculate the unknown length. Okay, so we've got, so we've got 10 squared plus 27 squared equals, and we'll just call it c squared for now. So c squared, let's figure out what 10 squared plus 27 squared is. It's 829. And now we have to take the root of that. Opposite of squaring is square rooting. So in your calculator, you can go second x squared, which is square root. If you have a graphing calculator, you can copy out the previous answer or you just write it in. You have to punch it in. So 28.8. That was 829 underneath, and then 28.8. And that would be meters. So what's the distance to one decimal place? We already rounded, 28.8. Okay. Next one, Beth, a carpenter needs to estimate the length of the diagonal across a wooden post. How can she estimate without measuring? Okay, well, let's take a look. She wants that diagonal. So which is the unknown length? That is opposite the 90 degrees, so that's the hypotenuse. Okay, and so what is the square of a leg? 7/2 of an inch. Oops. So you want to take 7/2 because that comes from 3.5 converted to an improper fraction is 7/2. Okay, and so now we want to square that. So 7 squared is 49, 2 squared is 4. You can do that without a calculator. Okay, now it's a square, right? So those are the same. So what is the sum of the squares of the legs? So we are going to have 49/4 plus 49/4. So you have a common denominator. It's going to be over 4, and that will be 98. Okay. So you're not supposed to use a calculator, right? So we are asked to now find that distance, which would be the square root of 98/4. Well, I don't know what the square root of 98/4 is. I know that if we're taking the square root of 98/4, that's the same as the square root of 98 over the square root of 4. Well, I know that the square root of 4 is 2. Okay, so so here I know that that's going to be 2, but 98, I don't know what it is. So think about a perfect square that's close to 98. Well, 100 is close to it. So I'm going to actually, instead of calling it 98/4, I'm going to call it 100/4. Okay, that's pretty close. So the estimated length, so c squared is approximately 100/4. Okay, well, what's 100 divided by 4? You don't even have to take the root of it separately. 100 divided by 4 is 25, and the root of 25 is 5. So each diagonal is about 5 units, and which units are inches. Okay, and then next one, Jess's grandfather let out 125 meters of kite string and is holding the reel 1 meter above the ground. Jess is standing 75 meters away, directly underneath the kite. So this is Jess here, there's Grandpa. How far above the ground is the kite? Okay, so we want to find out what A is. So we know the length of the kite, that is the hypotenuse, or the string of the kite. We know how far Jess is from her grandfather, that's 75. And so here we want the vertical height, which is a leg of the triangle. Oops. Okay, so it says, how can you calculate the unknown length? The square of the hypotenuse is, well, take 125 and square it. 15,625. The square of the known leg, okay, so 75 squared is 5,625. And set up the equation and solve it. So we have a squared. The square of the other leg is 5,625. And the square of the hypotenuse is 15,625. So really we have to take the square of the hypotenuse and subtract the square of the other leg. So 15,625 minus 5,625 is 10,000. So the root of 10,000. Take a look. It's got 4 zeros, so it's 100. Okay, so how far above the ground is the kite? It is 100 meters above. Oh, just a sec. Above Jess, and Jess is 1 meter above ground. So we have to go 100 plus 1 equals 101 meters above ground. Okay, and now you can work on, oh, there's another example here, sorry. The Samus teepee in Medicine Hat is the world's tallest teepee. Each pole is 69.9 meters long and touches the ground 24.4 meters from the center of the base. What is the height of the teepee? So again, we have the hypotenuse here, and this is a leg, and we want to know the other leg. So 24.4 squared plus b squared is 69.9 squared. So really, we want to take the hypotenuse, square it, and subtract the other leg squared. So in your calculator, 69.9 squared, 69.9 squared minus 24.4 squared. So that's going to be 4,290.65. Now we're going to take the root of that. Okay, too many nines. There we go. And 65.5 to the nearest 10th. Okay, and always check if it makes sense. It has to be shorter than the hypotenuse because the hypotenuse is the longest side, and it is. If you get something bigger, then probably you add it instead of subtract it. Okay.